Welcome to BPH Crafts. I'm your host Heather, known as Bunnyfish on Ravelry, Instagram, and YouTube. Today is Friday, the 4th of May, 2018, and this is episode number 8. Grab some sticks and string and come sit with me. How are you guys doing? I am not really going to recap the week because I have been doing daily vlogs. So I'm going to be vlogging every day during the month of May, inspired by KT of Inside Number 23. She did this last year. So yeah, if you want to know how my week's been, go back and watch the previous videos, the vlog videos. We have some administrative stuff to talk about. The first is there was a giveaway in the group which closed this morning, and it is for the Compieto shawl by Jack Beck. The shawl that I did I have it? The test knit for? I do. It's on the bottom. So this one, the test knit that I did, and the winners are Allison Roseboom, Hales Knits, and Seafish 2816. So I think I'm just gonna let Jack know that you won so that he can send you the pattern so that you can get started on that, because there are several knit-alongs going on right now that I know that shawl can fit into. So I want you to be able to start that as soon as possible, since everybody already has yarn picked out. The other thing is we will be doing All the Small Things knit-along in May, not in May. It's May right now, in June and July. And I know that I fizzled out last year, and I'm really, really sorry. But we will be doing it this year, and I will be taking part because honestly I need something to get my my modular project knitting back into gear. So I'm sure I'll be doing a lot then, and just so that people can start planning, All the Small Things is pretty much anything you finish counts, even if it's just a piece of a modular project. So a square counts, a hex puff counts, even if it's attached to a blanket, the square counts. A single sock counts. If you finish a pair of socks, that counts as 2. A sweater counts. If you are working on all of these little modular pieces for a blanket and then you finish the blanket also counts. So it's not just small things, it's just everything, but it does include modular projects. I am going to, I think, change up the rules a little bit on how posts are made, so I'll discuss that more when it gets closer to the knit along, but I did want to let you guys know that is coming up if you want to start gathering supplies for that. And I'm also thinking of starting a knit along on the middle of June. So my kids' last day of school is like, they have the first 2 weeks of June and then they don't anymore. So I kind of want to have like a summer break sort of knit along. And I'm really thinking of doing summer shorties. So short socks for summer, or long socks. You could knit any socks, but I think I want to do socks this summer. And specifically that short socks can count. And for that one, it's not going to have to be a pair, because I kind of want to just make a whole bunch of short socks and not necessarily worry about them matching yarn-wise, just same stitch count, same matching fit-wise, but not necessarily color-wise. So that will be a sock that, that'll be a thing where one finished sock counts, and works in progress are going to be accepted in the summer socks as long as you knit half of the project in the month. So if you want to start a whole bunch of socks and get to the halfway point before, let's say, June 15th, totally acceptable. And the other thing is, I do not have my kids this coming weekend. They will be with their grandma, so I will be definitely typing up the design socks. So that will be going out to testers very soon. What design socks? Oh, the ones that I finished this past week. So here they are, and I'll show you the backs. This is where I was last week, so I just had to finish knitting the leg. It's a cuff down pattern. Knit down the leg, knit the foot, and the pattern is done with intarsia in the round. The pattern is written for 60 stitches, but I am going to include instructions on how to modify for a different stitch count. So yes, if you're testing, hopefully by the time this video goes up, I will have contacted you, but maybe not, definitely by Sunday. The yarn that I used for my design is Leading Men Fiber Arts Show Stopper Base in the London Fog colorway, and then the rainbow is Nooch Fiber Midtown Sock in Unresolved. I did finish one other project though this week, since we're in finished objects, and it is not something that I had started last week. This is the Cheshire Cat Hood by Smiley Kylie, and it is, it's acrylic, but it hasn't been washed or anything, so it might sit differently after it goes through the water. Sometimes acrylic does, sometimes it doesn't, but it's just this big squishy hood thing knit on bulky yarn, and my best friend Mary Lee commissioned this for festivals this summer, and it's actually going to sit a little more like this on her because she is going to wear yarn balls, I think they're called, in her hair. So it's basically wool dreadlocks. So she's just going to have more hair than that. So it's going to sit a little more out, but I made a few modifications to this pattern. It's a free pattern on Ravelry, and so modifications I made is I didn't follow the striping sequence because Mary Lee picked out 4 yarns instead of 3, and I kind of just wanted to play with the stripes as I felt I wanted them to be, as the yarn spoke to me. I did have the idea of having 2 main striping colors. So the main striping colors are Bernat Roving in Putty and Buttercream Luxe Craft Thick and Quick in Summer. So it's got blues and like aqua blues and purple and kind of a salmony, pinky, orange color. So those are the 2 main stripes. And then the 2 smaller contrast stripes are Hometown USA in Miami Seafoam and Baltimore Bay. And those are Lion brand yarns. So other modifications I made is it calls for a US 15 needle. I couldn't find that in my stash, so I went with a 13, and I had straights. I didn't have a circular, which is fine. I really don't mind knitting on straights at all. I like knitting shawls on straights. I liked knitting this hat just fine on straights. If I have appropriate size straights, I don't mind using the straights if it's appropriate for the project. It just so happens that a lot of the projects I knit are things that are knit in the round, so I use circular needles a lot. But these are just some old boy knitting needles. These were my grandma's back when she could knit. She has Alzheimer's, and she basically has the dexterity of like a 3 to 4 year old. So my mom gave me all of her old knitting needles and stuff in her very old needle cases. So I like to break those out when I have an appropriate project for them, but that just doesn't happen that often. What else about this hood? So So I knit on a size smaller needle, which meant that my fabric turned out a little bit smaller than the pattern called for. So I added an extra stripe to the back, an extra thick stripe to the back. And then I also went along the bottom edge and picked up and did ribbing like it calls for at the front of the hood. I just continued it on the bottom because I wanted to make it a little bit longer, because Mary Lee is going to have her hair like, it's going to look like this basically, with all that volume, but that's actually going to be full. It's not going to be her hands and her hair. So she's going to need the extra space. So I didn't want it to be too short. Like I didn't want the hat to hit here or something, or hit in a weird space. So I added that length. Overall, really quick, really easy knit. I made the whole thing in 3 days. You could totally make it in an evening if you just did it. The first day I just did the ribbing for the bottom, and then I did the entire body, and then I did the ears. So the ears in this pattern are also different, or in this hat are different than in the pattern. I crocheted mine using a size P crochet hook because in the pattern, the designer says that she's not really pleased with how the ears worked up, and I started knitting them per the pattern and I didn't like how they were working up. So I said, well, I've made a lot of toys with a lot of ears and I know I like this specific shape. So it's just a triangle, a crocheted triangle, and it is double thickness. I actually didn't close the bottom, so you can see my fingers are in there. So the back is just plain gray, and then the front has the two aqua colors, and Mary Lee specifically wanted ear tufts, and I don't know how fluffy she wants them, so I did not unravel the yarn, but you can unravel the yarn and just have it really, really poofy. So when I see her, she will decide how she wants it, but I'm just going to put it on one more time because I actually think it's really, really cute, and if I wore hoods, I would probably make myself one, but I don't actually wear hoods. But on mine, I would put the ears a little bit higher. And I didn't weave in the ends super, super great on the ears in case she wants them higher, but I know that it's going to sit more like this on her, so I think that'll be fine. So some of you might notice that I did not finish all of my April projects. They're still not finished, but they're getting so close. So first, let me show you the Sarah, which is a pattern by Laura Ayler. I'm knitting mine using Knit Picks Stroll Tonal Worsted in Canopy. And last week I was here. And I did all of this body. I did the bottom ribbing. I did both sleeves. And I picked up for the shawl collar, which goes all the way from all the way on waistband up around to the other waistband. So the pattern is really, really well written. I followed all of the instructions for it until I got to where it tells you the length of the sweater. So I extended the length on this sweater to make it longer, and as you can see, it has sleeves. Sarah is a short sleeve sweater, but I wanted a winter sweater with long sleeves, so I can kind of try it on for you a little bit. I can try on the sleeve for you. So in the actual pattern, the sleeve, like you split for the sleeves and then you come back and knit maybe around plain and go right into ribbing. I obviously extended it. I didn't use a pattern for the decreases for the arm. I kind of just made it up as I went. For the upper arm, I decreased 2 stitches every 8 rounds. And then I did over the elbow. I didn't do any decreases. I think I did like 20-ish rounds with no decreases, and then I went back to decreases every 8 rounds until I got to the wrist where I started the ribbing. And I consciously made the decision to make this ribbing section come down over my hand because, especially in winter, I like to have the option to pull down my sweater over my fingers. And this is going to stretch a little bit when it's blocked. It is super washed, but it has been washed a lot of times because it used to be a different sweater. So I know it's going to be just a smoosh longer than that, but I didn't want to rely on the blocking to make the sleeve long enough. If it blocks way too big, that's fine. I'm perfectly okay with this being oversized. This is why I always wear my hair up, because when it's down, then I fidget with it. And I am super close to finishing this. I'm telling you right now, I'm going to finish this today because I have 10 rows and the bind off and weaving in ends. So I'm going to finish this today, which means next week I will show it as a finished object. This will be finished next week, which is good. Just in time for summertime. I have a long sleeve sweater. But I think I'm going to keep it in my car because it doesn't get terribly hot here during the summer. Definitely when the sun is up, it's too hot for anything like this. But once the sun goes down, it cools off. And especially compared to the daytime temperatures, sometimes evening and nighttime temperatures feel super cold, even though it's only like 20-degree difference. So I think I'm going to keep this in my car and then wear it all the time in winter. But just so that I have it for summertime shenanigans. And I don't know for sure, but I think this is probably enough to get me through the end of the sweater. If it's not, I do still have 2 hanks that I never wound into cakes. So I can break into one of those. So I'm kind of thinking for this, I think I want to make a hat to go out of this, maybe a hat. I'm also thinking that I might make a pair of baby booties for my son's teacher from last year, the one who's pregnant, who I'm making booties for. And the hat that I'm thinking of making, Jack Beck has a hat out and is having a knit along for his patterns with another designer who I don't remember their name, sorry. So I might do that hat this month too. Depends on how my other projects go, because obviously I can't budget my time appropriately since I didn't finish 2 projects from last week. So let's talk about that other project from last month that I didn't finish. This is the painted tiger fiber that I'm spinning, and it's beautiful and it's taking forever, but that's fine because it's, it's pretty thin. I have this, and then I have what was on the 2 spindles left to ply. But what's on the spindles is maybe combined, it's what I have left of this ply ball. So by next week, it should be finished, especially because I don't have kids this weekend. So if I don't sleep all this weekend, I'm going to sleep, but if I don't sleep the entire weekend, I should be able to type up the pattern and also finish this spin so that it can be a completed thing. Because if I have to have this as a work in progress on 2 podcasts in May, I'm kind of going to be really disappointed in myself. Let's see. Okay, so those were my works in progress that carried over into the month, but I also have 6 new works in progress because on the 1st, I started all of the projects that I want to finish this month, except the one that I had as a UFO. So what should we look at first? Let's do this because it's little. So I'm making this little cross-stitch teacup, and I barely knit yesterday, so yesterday doesn't count, but the first 2 days I worked on everything. And my plan for the cross stitch is, because it's such a small piece, look at how small that is, it's totally going to be like a little decoration for my Christmas tree that I'm going to have someday. That's 4 feet tall and has only handmade ornaments on it. So I've done 2 strands because my goal is to do 1 strand a day. And that should, historically, that has gotten me a finished small cross stitch in a month. If I feel motivated to do more than 1 strand, then I will, but I enjoy cross stitching, but I'm not like passionate about it. So I want to do it, and then I don't want to do it anymore for the rest of the day. I have also started a pair of socks out of Patton's Croy in the woodsy colorway, and Haley and I are going to be yarn twins this month because we are both making socks out of this yarn. The pattern that I'm using, so let me backstory this for those of you who haven't watched the vlogs. I cast this on to go walking at the park, and I chose a pattern for it. And the pattern that I chose is it's called the Pack Socks by Rachel Coopy. And anybody who knows Rachel Coopy's designs knows that they're not simple designs. So I did the cuff and 1 pattern repeat on my 2-hour walk at the park, which is fine. But if I were working on plain vanilla socks, in 2 hours, I could knit probably like 6 inches on a leg. If I was working on 9-inch circulars, I don't know if that's accurate because I don't really knit vanilla socks. But I do know that I'm going to say, however long Suicide Squad is, I knit about 6 inches on a pair of socks on 9-inch circulars. So one time I knit vanilla socks, and I knit that much in 2 hours or whatever. I did the cable too. There's a cable that you have to cross, and it is over 9 stitches. And I did that while walking without a cable needle because I cable without a cable needle. And not only is the cable 9 stitches, it is also, the cable is ribbed with twisted stitches. So that's really fun. The pattern's really, really lovely. It's really well written. I just was clearly crazy when I decided that this was going to be my walking knitting. And honestly, I don't really have any walking knitting currently. But I am pretty excited because soon I should be getting a package in the mail because Michelle, who does, she used to do Dancing Dog Dye Works, but now she's rebranded to, I want to say it's Lucky Dog Yarn Co. She put a call out for sample knitters, and I will be knitting some samples for her, and all she wants is plain vanilla socks. So that's going to be my new walking knitting as soon as I get that yarn. But anyway, back to this sock. It's really, really lovely. I did modify the pattern because I'm using this thicker yarn. Patton's Croy, I'm sure you've heard from a bajillion podcasts, is more like a sport than a fingering. This is a 50-gram ball, and it is 152 meters. So which is 166 yards. So what's that? 332 yards. I think my math's right for 100 grams. So it's more of a sport weight than a fingering. And I modified it to be a 64-inch stitch sock. The way I did that is that there is a texture pattern on the front and the back, and I just took out some of the repeats of the texture pattern around. So these socks are definitely socks that I have to pay attention when I'm knitting, which is fine. I can have something that's not mindless because a lot of my projects are a little less mindful this month. And I'm actually really excited to be knitting very heavily patterned socks. Every once in a while, I just feel the urge to do that. I also cast on a bootie, which I can't pronounce, but I will put the name on the screen, and of course it'll be linked in the show notes. I could have finished this. I have made these booties. I've made 2 booties in a day before, not even in a whole day. It's a really quick, really simple pattern. It's garter stitch, it's knit flat. My modification to the pattern is that I cast on the X amount of stitches. I don't remember how many. It says to cast on, and then it wants you to seam this bottom. I just do a Judy's Magic cast on with double that number. No, not double. With that number of stitches split between 2 needles. So instead of having to seam, I just knit back and forth. That way I just don't have to seam up the bottom. You do still have to seam the back, but I don't mind seaming the back. And it's a really, really cute bootie pattern. I have had it in my queue for forever, and I actually made 2 pairs of booties with it last year when I wasn't on Ravelry, so I didn't update my projects with it. So I really, really like it. It turns out really cute, and this is the first pair that I'm going to make for her. I'm definitely, for my son's teacher from last year, I'm definitely going to make her at least 2 pairs, probably 3, but we'll see when I get there. And there's no reason why I shouldn't have both booties done by next week of this pair. I just need to work on them, but they're super fast and easy. I have also started my design blanket for self-striping yarn, and I'm using Bernat Super Value Big Stripes in the Shoreline colorway, and I really, really like these colors. I don't know if this blanket's going to go to a baby or just sit somewhere where I can like put it over my lap. Who knows? I like parts of my design that I have right now, but I don't really like my transition. And I think, so I'm showing you the wrong side right now. I think that what I want to do, I'm going to rip out. I'm going to rip back everything that I have here. I'm going to keep some of the design elements, but I'm going to go to the library today and pick up a couple stitch dictionaries just so I can flip through and figure out something else. For right now, this part is just stockinette until you get to the transition, and it's really kind of boring for me to knit. So I'm not loving that. So I think I want to throw a texture or something in here. But I don't know. I don't know. We'll see what speaks to me when I get the books from the library. And look, I'm keeping it in my Fates thread bag. So it is, it's a sock size bag, but it's big enough for that big cake of yarn and the project and my notebook, my little design notebook. So it's perfect size for that. The other 2 bags that I have are not made by bag makers. They were made by friends, but this is made by Haley and this is made by Jerry, and I love both of them very, very much. And then I have also pulled out and started working on another spinning project, which is my goal project for this month. It's a very old UFO, and it is in a Knitting's My Bag bag, which I won from a, I think it was a Knittables giveaway, or like, not a giveaway, maybe, is that right? I feel like it was Knittables, a knit along. So I've had this bag for a really long time, and I sent the maker, she sent me her entire folder of fabrics to pick from, and I couldn't pick, so I picked like 4 and just told her to surprise me, and this is what she made for me. So anyway, in here I have a little cookie jar with my drop spindle that I am spinning the fiber on. This, I think I said this was Gourmet Stash, and it is the Horcruxes fibers. So you get 2, well, let me show you an unopened one. You get 2 little kind of slivery things of each color, and I am spinning them from kind of lightest to darkest, and then applying them, Navajo applying them. So this is number 4. And I have the first sliver thingy spun up, and I'm working on the second. So I'm halfway through my singles. And then I have been keeping up with the plying mostly. So I can get about 3 of the sliver thingies on my spindle before I have to wind them off. So I have been plying as I go on an Ashford spindle that I got from a friend of mine when she decided she didn't want a spindle. She was not a spindle spinner, and she was a wheel only spinner, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. So you can't really see anymore, but kind of at the top you can kind of see that there was really light fiber. The first fiber is actually white with just a couple hints of black in it, and then it gets darker. And some of the slivers have colors in them. This one has a gold color in it. The one I'm spinning right now has green in it. So, and it's Gourmet Stash, and it's Luxe fibers. So what does this have in it? It has Merino, Yak, Angelina. Not all of them have all of these things, but the one that's currently being plied has those, and maybe another fiber. Hold on. And silk. So a lot of things. It is such a pleasure to spin and ply, but I'm spinning it very fine for the single, so it's just taking a long time. So I don't know if it's really realistic to expect that spin to be done this month, but if I don't finish it this month, that'll be okay as long as I make a lot of progress on it. If I make a significant amount of progress, I'll be happy with it. So far, I have spun 15-ish minutes a day on that spin, so at least I'm like making a start toward finishing it. Okay, so on to modular project spotlight for the week. This is not a scrappy project, and it is not a small project either. This is a chunky mitered square blanket, and I'm using basically Shelly Kang's sock yarn blanket pattern for it. It is 17 stitches per side, so 35 stitches cast on total. And it is mostly Lion Brand Hometown USA. It will fit on my queen size bed when it's finished, and I have five rows done. I think that I need 11. Yes, I need 11 rows, so I'm almost halfway there. And it's just really big and squishy and heavy, like weighty. And the way that I'm doing the colors is, so this is square 1. And square 1 has color A striping with color B. And then square 2 has color B striping with C. Color square 3 has C with D, and it works across like that. I'm not carrying yarns up the blanket in any specific way. I'm just trying not to put the same color too close to itself throughout the blanket. And I don't know what kind of border I want to put on the edging, if any. I'm still up in the air about that. But I hope to be, I would really like this blanket to be finished this year. So I am going to try, even though it's going to be summer and that's going to be hot, I'm going to try to focus on this for the cooler summer months. It doesn't get really, really hot here until July and August. So maybe for the first part of all the small things, I will try to knock out several squares on this blanket. That is all that I have for you this week. It was a lot. So thank you for joining me. Get those projects together for all the small things. Start planning on that. Pull your minis, get them wound, do whatever you need to do so you can knit all the small things or the big things. The other thing about all the small things is works in progress totally count, and there is not a limit on how close you are to the end. So if all you have to do is bind off your project on the 1st of June, that totally counts. Because sometimes I cannot bind off a project the same day that I finish all of the things on it. Because sometimes binding off just takes too much brain power for me. So totally acceptable. Anyway, I will see you guys next week. Bye.